And then all these flip, so good. Mics are unmuted, just to make sure everyone can hear us online.
We can hear you.
Thank you, Susan. So I think we're all ready to go. So if you'd like to call the meeting to order and we can go from there.
Hi, I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Conservation Commission on July 16th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Susan, could you call the roll?
Yes, Commissioner Bashand,
Here.
Commissioner Conway,
Here.
Commissioner McCormick, Commissioner Morris,
Here.
Commissioner Paskowitz, Commissioner Saydil,
Here.
Commissioner Wemett,
Here.
Chairman Zellick.
Do I have to announce that I'm the temporary chair?
Yep. So what you do is just say that you are chairing the meeting and that since to make a quorum that the two alternate members, Commissioner Morris and actually Bashand is now a full-time member because that was just taken care of. So yes, that Commissioner Morris is seated.
Do you want me to repeat what you just said?
You just say ditto, I guess, but.
Okay, good.
So the next item on the agenda after roll call is the approval of minutes.
Can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the last month's meeting?
I'll make the motion to approve
I'll second.
if there's no other corrections.
Is there any discussion on it?
Any discussion? We take a vote now?
Yep.
Aye.
Yep. So it'd be just.
Or you have to make a,
Call for a vote. So there's a motion and a second, and the motion is to accept or approve the minutes. So you would just call for everyone in favor and
I
then.
should come over here and do this.
I'm staff, so I can't.
come on, Dave, hang in there, hang in
Is
there.
that really true?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, he's our town planner. He's just here.
No, I understand that,
Okay.
but I was just wondering, like, he has so much of a better grasp on this than I do. You've
Yep.
been to a lot more meetings,
Yep.
I mostly sit over here with a dumb look on my face.
So I'd say you can call for a vote. for-
Yes, I'd like to call for a vote to approve the minutes of the last meeting. Aye.
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 So
I'm going
moved.
to abstain because I was not present at the last meeting. This is Commissioner Conway.
How did Andreas vote?
I'm in favor.
Thank you.
So passes 4 with 1 abstention.
Thank you.
Okay. I don't believe there's anything next except the public hearing phase of our meeting. And that is, there are 2 items on the agenda for public hearing. The pedestrian bridge at the park and the application for 54 Norwood Road. When am I supposed to read that?
So I can read it. So just at the start,
Okay.
typically chairman would say, yep, call the public hearing to order.
Oh, I'll call the public hearing to order.
Yep. Order for the
For
application.
the first application is the town of Newington for the reconstruction of the pedestrian bridge.
Yep. So I will read the
the
hearing
whole thing.
notice into the paper, that was published in the paper. So
Okay.
Newington Conservation Commission notice of public hearing, July 16th, 2024 at 7 p.m. Notice is hereby given that the Newington Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing in council chambers, room 103 at Town Hall, 200 Garfield Street in Newington, Connecticut on Tuesday, July 16th to consider the following petitions. Application IW 24-4 for the reconstruction of the pedestrian bridge within the URA Upland Review area at 123 Garfield Street, Mill Pond Park. Application owner, Town of Newington, contact Christopher Zavidio. The public hearing will be a Zoom webinar hybrid meeting. Information on how to attend will be posted on the town website. Link follows. These applications and related material are available for public inspection through the published agenda at Conservation Commission Agenda Center. The link follows. Persons who require an accommodation to participate in this public hearing should contact the town engineer at phone number follows or email follows, not less than 24 hours before the public hearing. Submitted Christopher Zavidio, Newington Town Engineer, and the Wetland Agent, and this ran in the rare reminder on July 4th and July 11th.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman? Can I ask a question?
Sure. Yes.
It says documents, we were supposed to have retain our documents from the last meeting, or was there supposed to be new documents? in
From the
this
last
packet?
meeting.
Okay.
Last meeting. There's
Nothing
nothing
changed.
new.
Nothing changed.
No.
Okay.
Which now begs the next question. Do you want me to do the presentation again? Or do we just want to entertain questions?
Let's just take questions. I don't want to see the presentation again. I've already read it. I have the plans. We have everything. We have,
Very well.
you know, we had a long discussion of it last meeting.
All right. So I believe we now open the floor to questions from yourselves and or the public.
I would,
All right. Let me check and see if there's anybody with their hands raised.
yep, Cato has something to say, and I had something to add too.
Yep, so at this point typically would be the chairman call out, is anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? And then we have people come up.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application?
Apparently we do.
Just,
It's actually a question. The open Draco, 21 Isabel Terrace. Oh, I talk online with people on this, but I do, I'm looking at our town seal and there's leaves there. And I'm still not getting a good handle on how many trees.
Eric, I cannot hear. There's an audio. Can the person who's speaking come to the table?
Is it the mic?
Oh, could you move the mic back towards you?
Is it on?
Yeah, so you guys got it. There you go, see if that works.
Yeah.
There you go.
Okay, Gilbert Draco, 21 Isabel Terrace. I'm just gonna repeat my little spiel. I just have a question or an observation. I know the trees have to come down for the boom and whatever, but our town seal does show some nice foliage around the falls. I can't get it, I haven't been able to get a handle from the documents as to really how many trees and where those trees are that are gonna be completely clear cut. I know it's too late and I'm sure you're gonna close the public hearing tonight, but it would have been nice, or even if you can, like tomorrow, whatever, tie a yellow ribbon around the trees so the public can get an idea rather than, one day showing up and, I don't know how many trees, 10, 15 trees are gonna be gone. If they can just be identified so we can kind of like
I can.
work our way into it.
I
Actually,
think I can give you a better understanding. First off, from the town seal perspective, the trees that are on the falls side are not being impacted except for overhead trimming over the path. So the areas that are being cleared is the embankment between the walk and the water's edge. So you have the bituminous concrete walk, the sidewalk. And then you have the pond's edge 5 or so feet to the east. That's the area from the bridge north and south that's being cleared, not the far side of the sidewalk of the path.
So how many trees are gonna be cut? Are there no trees or just bushes?
Well, they're mostly shrubbery and invasives, but there are 4 notable trees that Steve Tofelt identified for us. One was a pin oak, one was a maple of.
Yep, so there's 2 different maples. There's a sugar maple and there should be a silver maple in there as well. The silver maple is located closer to the actual water's edge itself. And then there are, I believe, if I actually have to look at that again on which one, there are a couple other smaller trees in there, and I believe they're white ash. They're not truly huge, significant trees in there, but the biggest significant tree is the pin oak that's sitting in that area. And there is one additional tree. What I can do for the commission's information too, and share. Again, if the chairman doesn't mind and
no,
staff
please,
doesn't
go
mind.
ahead.
Better to get this out now. We want you to be at ease with this.
Yep. So this is the inventory and kind of the ideas that I was, or the concept that I put forward in working with the town arborist. So the main thing in talking about that area is you'll see up on the screen, this is the area, again, it's on the pond side. You can see the path would be behind any areas to be cleaned cleaned out. There is no proposed work on the falls side of it. There's only proposed work on the pond side.
Except overhead clearing.
Oh, so yeah, except trimming, but there will be no tree removal in that area and minor trimming. Area 1, it does have one sugar maple that's up towards the edge, that's right next to the existing light pole
Area
that's
1's the
there.
green area.
Okay.
So area 1 again. So this is the area, and working at the with the arborist and looking at the site. Area 1 is proposed to be sod only. So there's no proposal to use the drum attachment and mulching in this area. When I looked at it, it's primarily you have the one sugar maple that's at the top of it, but then the rest of it is alders all along the water's edge. It's kind of a narrow edge. So that would be best to cut low to the ground because that will rejuvenate. Those do relatively well and rejuvenate well. And in that area, having less disturbance. Area 2 is the areas where the primary, where you kind of see where the trees.
That's the
are
purple
at.
area.
So when we're looking at that, area 2 pretty much has about 4 trees. So if I show, let's see.
While you're looking at that, I'm just curious if that if that maple or whatever is outside of, why is that being cut down if it's outside of where the bridge is and it's
So
far away?
the different areas on that one, so that's area 1 only has one maple on the top of it. And the key is it's still within that area where, so you have the clear area of swing that you need ahead of the bridge, but you also need to clear up in front of it as well in case it does need to be laid down. It's a safety factor.
Okay.
But it does, that's best practices and what you do need to do on site. This is the area where you can see, this is kind of the place where the benches and everything would be to your right in this picture behind you. This is kind of when you're heading into that narrow area. This kind of shows you the pin oak is the larger tree. You have a sugar maple in front, the silver maple in back, and some small white ashes. You can see the small one in the foreground of the picture.
Is this like as if we're walking from the soccer field or walking
Yes,
from?
correct.
Okay.
This is walking from, the soccer field, or if you were rounding where the other bridge was and coming over this and heading towards Town Hall,
Okay.
this is just as it starts to narrow in. So these were kind of the trees that were looked at. So this is the area where you're going to see trees primarily removed. The rest of it does have some other scrub trees in the area. There's actually a lot of sugar maples that are starting to grow in the area. That was noted in the DEP's in our dam safety report that we had to submit and have WMC engineers come in and do a look at it. They actually noted that those trees, the saplings, were starting to come into maturity, and that causes a threat to the rock, to the dam itself. And they recommended that that was kept under control and that those saplings were not allowed to mature. Because again, part of this is, yes, we understand this is necessary to install the bridge,
Right.
but there is a secondary thing of where the town has been told that this area does need to remain more clear around the dam embankment for safety, for any tree fallings and potential intrusion into the bank of the dam when you're talking about fissures in the rock and everything like that, to preserve that overall.
Roots get in there, they start popping the rock out, that sort of thing.
No, that would be,
But that's
Okay.
that's not a primary in this application, though. It just happens to be a secondary benefit.
so you're gonna do stump removal of these or just?
No, absolutely not. No stump removal. I need an Army Corps permit for that.
So it's not gonna be completely clear cut?
No, it'll be cut down to ground level.
Okay. And is it gonna be any replanting or not? You just feel that the existing foliage will rejuvenate?
We intend to plant new to compensate for the value of the maples and the pin oak. So someplace else on the park, as a cost of this project, we will plant 4 more trees at a place to be determined by, park staff.
So in the report, I kind of noted, so in area 1, it's anticipated that the alders will rejuvenate. Again, it's a narrow section. In area 2, where you have primary removal, there is a slightly larger area of the understory where right now it's actually open. It's one of the rare areas that's not completely choked by multiflora rose and bittersweet and honeysuckle are the primary invasives that are in
Don't
there.
forget my favorite poison ivy.
Poison ivy, yeah, well, that's another story, but that's the area so there's a potential small area in area 2 that has been looked at, that once the trees do come down and the area is cleaned up, there is an opportunity there to plant some more species to provide some more seed stock within the area. Now, within area 3, it's primarily, the plan is to go through with the drum attachment. Was first to go through the foresty clear it out, and then with a mulching attachment and mulch it down in that area. It'll provide kind of that pretty much a slightly dense cover to kind of tamp down the weeds in that area. But then you'll see most likely the silky dogwoods will start coming back through. Those are the bushes that are there. You will see some invasives, and part of the plan is actually to have parks go through there and make sure and identify the invasives and pull or cut them. And as this process starts to rejuvenate, if there are areas that do come back and kind of are a little more sparse, that's an opportunity again to plant a couple more bushes in there. I have been speaking with Steve Tofelt. He has gone out to the nurseries. The stock is constantly rotating in what's available, but we are looking at, again, facultative upland wetland plantings that are supposed to be in this area that provide a good biodiversity and provide some food. I do have concern about things that provide, blueberry would be nice, things like that, but you don't want them necessarily hanging over the pond's edge. That's great for ducks, but it also could attract too many geese to the area as well. So we're being cognizant of that when we're looking at the design for the plantings.
We do know we have a goose problem over there.
Really? Okay, thank you. I feel better. Thanks.
Is there any other members of the public who want to speak on this application?
And reshare your screen.
Hi, Bill McCarthy, 206 Churchill Drive. Sorry, I was a little bit late. I was over at the pool committee meeting and everything got tied up. I was just a little bit concerned, I guess, about the whole process overall, that this bridge replacement thing went before the TPZ, before the town council, and gotten stamp that it's going forward. And now when I heard about this meeting, it was like, well, is this going to be a meeting that holds up the whole process? And I'm hoping that that's not what the outcome is going to be. As far as the trees that are growing, I'm a firm believer that trees have to come down. I live in a community where there's trees that are dead that for some reason the community doesn't want them cut down. Here we have the opportunity to restore a forest, well, a little forest, and continue to preserve the look of the pond itself. I guess that's everything. I just was a little bit confused about the order of things as far as the approval process. Thank you.
Thank you.
And if there's anyone online who would like to speak, please raise your hand and we can promote you to speak. So I'm not seeing any hands raised. I can say.
Oh, and Andres is chiming in.
Oh, there we go.
How do we
Yeah,
do this?
I guess Mr. Hinckley's not in attendance this evening. I sent him some photos, recent photos of the area. Maybe we can discuss them, give some people the warm feeling about what's going to come, what's not going to come down. I did have about 4 or 5 photos. Can I submit those as evidence?
Yeah, I would say typically yes. We just have to make sure that they are incorporated as part of the permanent record.
And you
I
said you
guess I
sent
sent
them
them to
there?
Mr. Hinckley's mailbox. I have them here. I can show them if I'm allowed to share my screen.
Or we let him share?
I think he can just, since you're a panelist, you can just share.
Okay. Andres, you can share your screen if you like.
Okay, thank you.
And just to bring it to your attention in the future, send them to me.
I don't have your email. That's the problem. Sorry.
Okay,
But, so this is the one photo here, looking from the railing. Nothing here is going to be disturbed, except up here, some trimming that's done up here.
correct.
All right, but these will stay. And this is from the opposite side here, looking up so,
You're still on the patio down by the bus garage?
right, by
that
the
pho-
railing there, the waterfall's over here on the left, so I'm looking up
Okay,
to the right,
yeah,
So I assume these trees will be safe, except maybe some trimming over here then.
correct.
And then this is higher up. I guess this is just coming up the stairs. I guess this will be cleared here. This is just coming up those stairs on the right-hand side.
Is that facing the pond?
Yes, it is. The pond's right here.
Okay, so yes, that's the area to be cleared.
And then, that's number 4. And again, this is on the bridge. I'm now going over it from the staircase over the bridge. I guess this is going to be cleared here.
Correct.
And I guess some trimming up here will be done up here.
Judiciously, yes.
And the last photo I have is just a little further down. That's again, turning around, coming off the staircases over here on the right. And I think this will have to be trimmed as well.
Correct. That's the primary area. That's area 2 on Paul's map that was shown in purple.
So if just want to help Councilwoman Bedrejko, give her a little more better visual than on a piece of paper. Exactly. This is a recent photo I took. So that's it.
All right, so Mr. Chairman, I had someone online who raised their hand for a little bit during that and then they unraised it. So if you still would like to speak, please raise your hand and we can promote you to speak. There we go. So I am going to you will have to do that.
Yes.
Go over, yep. And then you allow to talk, yep. All right, you are unmuted, so please say your name and address for the record.
Are they still muted?
Feedback on something.
Yeah. That was us. So who's got their hand raised?
So if we go to attendees,
That
go
was us.
to participants,
Gotcha.
attendees.
I thought we did
Oh,
that.
they are there. So your mic is live. See, Wojcicki, I apologize for murdering your name.
Washowitz?
The name is Carol Whitehowitz, I believe.
Okay, and is Carol interested in speaking? Is she muted on her end?
It looks like she is not muted and she does have her hand up.
Yeah, okay.
But we can't hear her.
Carol, if you're there, we cannot hear you, so please check your computer and make sure that you're unmuted. You have been unmuted in the room. Yes, we can always return to that, I think.
Hmm. All right, so let's move on to see if there's anybody else who'd like to speak.
Yep. We actually have another person
We have another,
who has their William D'Amelia, who's He's right here.
Yeah.
Right here.
He's not raising his hand virtually.
Okay, I
Yeah.
see that. Oh, okay, yeah, look, the thing we're over.
I didn't do it.
Yeah. All right, so,
Mr. Chairman? May I speak?
Oh, yes, please go right
And then we'll give the other person online a chance. And I know how frustrating it is because when I watch from home and by the time you get on or try to get through, they've already moved on. So let's give Carol a
If
chance
Carol
to.
does come back
Yeah.
on, we'll entertain that.
So my point was, and I wanted to address Mr. McCarthy, we're not delaying anything. This is just pretty standard protocol to have a public hearing. And not everyone shares your enthusiasm about cutting trees. So that's what we want to be careful about. Let them come out and speak their mind. And you mentioned the pool commission. That's not still going on at this hour, is it?
It was just over a minute before I came over.
Okay, so I was concerned that these two meetings might have been conflicted and they're both in the park. So that might have been a reason to keep the public hearing open another month, but since the meeting's over and no one's here, yeah.
So is there anybody else in the room who wants to speak for or against?
Let me finish my.
Oh, I'm
a couple
sorry.
of other points. That's okay, Chris.
Hi, John.
And can you go back to the screen where it showed the swing circle of the boom of the crane?
We can do that, yeah.
And I'm a little bit, because we talked about this before and I was concerned that was the whole area of clearing. And I'm not sure how we left that. Sounds like it is not now.
you can bring up the full plan.
I'm looking for it. Which one's mine? Here we go.
If you want, I can share too. I got it up.
If you got it up, go for it. Mine's really, really slow to load.
Okay, so
There
we
we
should-
go.
So the circle's quite large, the circumference of the circle, but, and I think I asked this before, so now I'm not sure. First, I thought it was not the clearing area, then I think it was discussed that it was the cleared area.
Okay, so the circle was intended to show a typical 100-foot crane swing arc.
Mhm.
So that would be an entire circle. If the crane were gonna swing in a full 360 degree, that would be the circle. That's not what we're trying to clear. The dashed lines in this plan alongside the pond edge are what we're clearing.
Okay.
So the 100-foot circle was to show what we needed for the primary swing zone. And then the area to the far side of the bridge is an emergency zone. So that's what this plan was intended to show. The radius wasn't intended to show we're clearing everything in that circle. It's intended to show where the crane is gonna be stationed in that square, the
Center of the circle.
crane pad.
Yeah,
And then we needed the area to the,
it was just a
Way down.
convenience showing the whole circle, then. We're only using half that circle.
correct, we're
Okay.
clearing on the pond side of the path. We're only trimming what's over the path. We're not doing anything on the west side of the pad other than the trimming necessary for basically what's immediately overhead of the pathway. Once we get to the abutment with the bridge,
Mhm.
we're golden. That's when this project is basically finished.
Okay, so there's basically no crane activity on that left side of that circle.
Correct.
So there's no reason for clearing, obviously.
Right, just those branches that overhang that would interfere with the cabling and the guide wires for the bridge itself.
And I
And
did
of course,
inspect,
the men on the ground controlling the guide wires.
yeah, I did inspect the bridge, so there's no doubt that the bridge needs replacement because it's almost questionable whether it should remain open to the public at this time because there's a lot of rot under there.
I would think another winter and we would close it.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Is there anybody else's hand raised? Bear with me with the Zoom technology stuff. I'm new to being on this end of it.
Let's see, participants. Again, I do not
I don't see
see
anybody
anyone
else.
with their hand raised. I'd just like to remind the commission too, that if there are any other questions that you have, to ask them now while the public hearing is open. Again, it gives a chance for all of that to be on the record too, and the information to be submitted or testimony from, or whatever questions you have to be asked during the public hearing portion. That way, new information isn't submitted afterwards.
So I did not see Carol come back online. Bernadette's got her hand raised. Does she want to speak?
Yes, please. So I happen to know Carol Wojtowicz, and she's having trouble with her speaker or her microphone, so she's unable to speak, but she wanted to know if the presentation is online, which with the last meeting minutes, or where are the meetings stored if someone in the community wants to watch? I know I wasn't present at the last meeting, but I know the meeting before that, the May meeting, there was a presentation. We had discussion about this. Can you go to the website and watch the meetings to
So the simple answer is yes. And if they want to know specifically how to get that, have them call me during normal business hours and I'll find somebody who knows.
And I can also add in, again, this is Paul, that you can view it. So there's two ways to view it, of course. All of the meetings that are on Zoom are live streamed to YouTube. And then the documents, the meeting will be there to watch as well. You can find that really by actually, there are ways through the town website, or you can actually just go to YouTube, search Town of Newington, and go to the official Town of Newington webpage and within YouTube, and you can find it there as well. There's also the Agenda Center that's through the town webpage. And on those agendas, that's where you'll find all the links to the documents. So the site plan, the staff reports, the rejuvenation plan, all those are contained within the agenda, which acts as the packet, and they're all linked. So they're able to click on those and see all the plans on their computer as well. And for those who have issues with the computers, they can always also come to the planning and engineering department, and all of the stuff we have is available to be viewed as hard copies as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So last call, John.
I would just say the only other obvious question is, should we extend the public hearing? I see no reason for it. Well, except that just as an overabundance of caution so that people don't start screaming when they do see the trees cut down, but that's gonna happen regardless of whether we delay it another month or not.
Well, the only thing I'll say in regard to that is I've done this presentation for the town council twice. I've done it for planning and zoning. Well, actually, Paul did it for me for planning and zoning because I was on vacation. And I've done the presentation for this commission. And we've had the public hearing. So if you feel there's a value in continuing the public hearing to next month for another round of questions, I wouldn't stand in your way, obviously. But I do think there's been plenty of opportunity for the public to be informed about the project.
Yes, I agree. But again, we're gonna see the screaming anyway, regardless. So I would defer to you then. Is it gonna delay your construction or your scheduling at all if we did put it off one more meeting?
No, we're already into manufacturing.
What's that?
We're already into manufacturing.
Okay, so,
This is being built.
so there would be no interference with your schedule.
No, another month won't hurt my schedule.
Then I'll leave it up to everyone else to decide what they want to do.
So I believe at this point, Mr. Chairman, you can ask for a motion to either continue the public hearing or to.
Yes, would we like,
vote on
I'd
it.
like to ask for a motion to continue the public hearing to next month so that the public can adequately come in here and, express their opinions about the trimming and or the tree removals. No motion for that?
I'll second it. Were you making a motion?
Yes.
I'll second it then.
Okay. Is there any discussion on the motion?
And I would just add, and I'm actually trying to look at it for our next meeting date. Do you have that easily handy?
Third Tuesday in August. Just a moment. 20th.
Okay. So my recommendation is any motion when you are continuing a public hearing is just to state the next meeting date and to say the date of that meeting as well. And that covers all the
And that'll
four.
be the 20th, right?
Yes.
To August 20th, yes.
So that'll be August 20th. The next, I'd like to make a motion that we extend the public portion of this hearing to August 20th, which will be the next meeting of this commission. Want to second that?
I'll second.
Okay, we gonna vote on it? Yeah.
Okay.
Aye.
It's only another month. It won't hold them up.
The online commissioners, Bernadette, Andreas, and just Bernadette and
Well,
Andreas.
normally we have Ms. Gibbons call the roll. If there's a vote and this like this, we have Ms. Gibbons call the roll. And
Yep, and I think that,
done a
that would
little
be-
orderly that way.
I do have a question. So by delaying it a month, does that mean that there won't be any work to the trees or cutting them down until after the next public hearing?
We will not schedule any of the work at the park until after this matter is drawn to a conclusion.
And if we do delay it for a month, you said it won't delay the scheduling of it. I don't want it to go into the winter months where it could be a detrimental delay.
I can't start the work at the park until roughly the end of September as it stands because of park functions. We are hoping to be able to get the bridge delivered in early October. And at that point, it basically is a quick process of pulling the old one out and putting the new one in.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there was nothing that would be detrimental in doing this. And it doesn't sound like there is. And one other question, is it going to go into the paper? How are we going to let the public know that there's going to be another hearing?
When a hearing is continued, we do not advertise a second time, am I right? Yes, Paul confirms that.
Can we put
So
it-
there's the website notice, there's the fact it's been advertised in the paper, there's this meeting being online, there's the availability of staff in the office for people to ask questions of, but not another newspaper notice.
Can we put it on the town website?
I believe it's on the town website.
That there'll be this continuation?
Well, that would definitely be an update, yes.
Okay, good. That's,
Thank you.
Yeah. I said because it is a town application, I'm sorry to butt in, but because it is a town application that I would typically say in this case, there isn't necessarily an issue with re-advertising it because we'd be the aggrieved party on that one. But just for typical public hearings on that one, when you do go in the second one, if you don't have a normal process of either re-advertising and do that, which is not typically done, that adding additional notice out there can cause an aggrieved party if it's not part of a normal thing or by statutes or by that. But under town, it's okay, I think in this case. But under going forward, just a reminder that when it's continued, it typically is just continued and not noticed again.
every day is an education. So,
So I believe we've completed the votes.
Actually, I think right now, so there is a motion and a second on the floor.
I think they took a vote.
That was all discussion they did. However, I think it would be good to have Susan do a roll call vote,
Oh.
as Commissioner Sedil noted.
Very good.
yes.
Okay, Commissioner Bashand,
Yes.
Commissioner McCormick, Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Sadil,
Yes,
Commissioner Conway,
Yes.
Commissioner Wemett.
Yes.
All right, public hearing is continued.
Okay. And now we're going to application 2024-3, the demolition of an existing garage and construction of a 24-foot by 40-foot detached garage with a building addition of 12 by 12 and a 40 by 40 paved driveway within the upland review area at 54 Norwood Road. The applicant and owner and contact is Michael Campbell.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'll just add for the commission's notice that this is a public hearing that was continued from the last meeting.
Right, thank you.
It was a continuance to, if I had all my plans and Chris was happy with all that I did, that he would bring it to the commission and tell him,
Is this the applicant?
This is the applicant.
Okay.
Mike Campbell.
Oh,
So in your packets, you should have received a brief report I wrote in favor of his application. We corresponded between the meetings to find out what rain garden tool he used. I utilized that. I adjusted some of the parameters. Sorry for that.
No problem, that's fine.
In that report, it also shows what the area of the yard drains into this rear portion of the property, roughly half his property. And using that and the current water quality rainfall volume amount, I got a number a little higher than his, but smaller than the area of rain garden he was proposing. So although our numbers aren't in complete agreement, what he was proposing was adequate for the number I received from that tool. And based on that, I'm in favor of his application as is.
yeah, please. So I was reading your documents here and we're talking about square feet. That's how you're measuring the rain garden, the square footage, the area of the rain garden?
Ultimately, it's a volume, and if we were using a, let's call it more robust rain garden calculator, something that, say, in my previous life as design engineer, I would have used, it would give me a volume. In this particular case, the tool is meant for a homeowner. It's a tool that's on the Yukon website under their Yukon Clear area, and it's more of a basic calculator. It takes a number of things into account as an assumption, such as the soil map from the Natural Soil Conservation Service, which it provides, and its other variables that we would have, as engineers, had to have selected for ourselves. This tool makes some assumptions for that, and that's why I call it a more basic tool. So it's doing the hard work for Mr. Campbell that I would otherwise have been paid to do. So with that in mind, using apples to apples comparisons, I had a result that was similar to his, but higher in square feet based on the parameters I chose to use. The area of his yard, the amount of rainfall going into it. Those are the only real two variables on this tool. And that tells us how big the rain garden has to be based on the depth. Now, I used a depth of 9 inches. I presumed that his would have been similar. You don't want to make a rain garden too deep, especially in a person's yard, and you don't want to make it too shallow because that's going to kick his area into a higher need, which he doesn't have a lot of room left in his yard to do. So 9 inches works.
So 9 inches before it overflows.
Correct. That would be the maximum volume of it. Now, he may also do things in this rain garden that this tool doesn't account for, and again, a more robust tool would, such as taking into account permeability of the soils, the underlying bed for the plantings he would put in. For instance, if there's a mulch bed underneath that 9 inches, it may be able to absorb, 30 or 40% of its own volume and water. The plantings that he puts in there, if he chooses the right plantings, they're water straws, they absorb a lot of water. None of this is actually taken into account in this tool. It's basically too simple for that. So with that in mind, anything he does to accentuate the rain garden, such as planting water tolerant plants, mulching, etc., below the 9 inches, is an extra volume that the tool doesn't account for.
Okay, I'll just say that it's a pretty significant amount of, attenuation, but we are talking about a ton of impervious area here too, so.
Correct. So I think that they counter each other.
Okay.
And that's without getting into doing any kind of calculations on the permeability of his patio.
Mhm.
So that's basically been neglected, as it will likely take some water into it, as built as a normal permeable pavement. The spaces between the stones will allow water to seep into the subgrade of the patio and that sort of thing. And that's all been neglected in this. So his calculations in mine, I believe, to be conservative. So he'll actually store more water in the initial flush of a rainstorm than the numbers will show.
That's all. Thank you.
Mhm. Do we have
Chairman, if
any
I may?
additional? Yes. Commissioner Settle.
Yes, so I see on the new plan, it actually has two rain gardens, right? One along the side of the perimeter and then one on the opposite side, immediately adjacent to the garage. So how is the new hydrology going to work? How does rain gardens work? Which runoff is going to go with which left, which is going to go to the right? Can you explain how that all is going to work? I get all the calculations you did, but how is that hydraulically wise from water standpoint all going to work? How is the approach there? It's going to work.
You want to take this?
As I understand it, it absorbs and keeps the most of the water on the property as possible. By pooling it and letting it be absorbed into the earth naturally. But by making a temporary holding area with plants that are very water friendly and the area being deep enough and of a substance to absorb water, to take the volume quickly.
And I'll add to that a little bit in that, in your packet, one of the things in my report was a map from our GIS showing the contours of the land, which is what I used to determine how much of his property was going to flow into that. And you can see from those contours where the breaks are that the rain garden on the garage side is going to receive the portion of the flow that is coming more or less from his neighbor's yard, where whatever is overflowing that or between the rain garden and the house will go across the patio into the other rain garden.
The longer one, that was the nature of my question. So the longer skinny, if you will, rain garden, that's basically runoff from the patio from the house would be collected there. And anything, the roof leader coming off the garage would go on the square rain garden. Is that correct?
Correct.
How's that flow wise? Is that the logic being used here?
I believe yes. I think if I understand your question, yes.
Okay. And ultimately, how is the wetland going to be affected? I mean, you have a certain amount of capacity. How is the connectivity to that, to the drainage area, the drainage swale there that runs along that whole property parallel to the street of Northwood Road? How is that going to work?
So from his
How's
back
that-
property line, to the swale, is approximately 100 or so feet, 100 plus feet. So any additional runoff that isn't captured by his rain garden has to travel through that wooded area. So it would contribute to the water flowing to those trees and not, in my opinion, likely to get to the point where it's a major contributor to the water course itself. The majority of that runoff in that conduit through there comes from the east, coming down from the neighborhoods up alongside the west side of the area west of Berlin Turnpike. What's the name of that mountain or that ridge or whatever? Cedar. All right. Brain fart, sorry. So most of that runoff that comes through there comes down from Cedar, gets collected into various storm drainage systems of the town and the subdivisions that are over there, and then channeled to that swale behind the old Best Market and through that conduit into ultimately Mill Pond. So I don't believe that Mr. Campbell's property is going to contribute that much to this. Whatever gets off of his property and gets into that woodland is going to be absorbed by those trees. So the real flow through there is not from his Northwood neighborhood, but from the neighborhoods to the east.
It's a collective of many sources that not just the applicants, I'm sure. But I'm just curious how that hydrology, all that works. Some will eventually make it there through the groundwater from that got absorbed by the rain garden, has to go underground. That's sort of the nature of my question. If it does not get absorbed by the trees that are right along the ridge line right there.
The beauty of the delay of the rain garden and whatever percolates through his pavement system is that by the time it does come out of the ground, if it does, it's after the initial flush of that swale. So it would come in the lag zone of the water peak.
Time delay.
Yeah.
How is this going to be maintained? I get it. This is gonna have to be cut yearly. What type of burden is gonna be on the applicant as far as maintaining these two rain gardens? Just let it go, or is it gonna be weed whacked at some point, or how does that?
No, it would be,
Long
it would
term.
be, it would be somewhat flowering, and it would be all natural, and it would be, you know, we wouldn't let it overweed or any of that. It would be something that you'd want to look at, you know, and we'll be staring at it. So it would be maintained as a garden if it was in the front of my house.
Okay, it's just sometimes it's just like cutting a grass. There may be some special care taken
No,
with such a.
no, it would, I mean, it would be trimmed, but the plantings there would be all water friendly, and they would be unto themselves in those areas. And it would be maintained as a visual, and it would not be, it's yet natural, but it would not be overrun with weeds. And the basic, or the premise of it is the bowl and what it sits in is to slow down any of that runoff and to keep it on property before it heads to the swale. And so that it goes into the earth naturally and slowly.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any more questions from any of the commissioners? Well, then I guess it would be appropriate to make a motion to approve the application for 2024
So what
Mr.
I would
Chairman,
do,
I think, is there anyone online?
Yep. So since we're still in the public hearing portion, we can ask if there's anyone in the room or online. And then if there's no other comments and no other questions from commissioners, again, just reminder, everything, questions should be asked during the public hearing portion. That way we can get it all on the record.
Right.
But then from there, it would be closing the public hearing and then moving forward.
I currently don't see anybody online, so
Is there anyone online?
I'm not presently.
Yep. If anyone is online, would like
Anybody
to
in the
speak.
public want to make some sort of a statement about this question? None of your neighbors have arrived? We're good.
Still nobody online.
So if there's none from here and no other questions, staff would recommend the chairman call for a motion to close the public hearing.
I would like to make a motion to close the public hearing on application 2024-3.
So moved.
Yep. And then Susan, if you would.
Call the roll?
Yep.
Please.
Commissioner Bashand,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Sadil,
Yes, to close.
Commissioner Wilmette,
Yes, to close.
Commissioner Conway.
Yes.
Okay, so
Okay, hearing is closed.
that ends the public hearing portion of the night.
Mr. Campbell, don't go away. We still have to close the rest of this. afterwards.
Yep, so you can actually take a seat if you'd like.
Okay,
Uh,
ready for new business.
Yep, so the next item on the agenda is actually public participation. Again, this is for anyone in the room or online who would like to speak. Again, limited to 2 minutes and not related to agenda items.
Yep, Greg from Municipal Terrace. I just have a question. You were talking before about the noticing and re-noticing of a public hearing. And part of this is my ignorance, I'm sorry, but I know TPZ has public hearings. There's a sign on the property. Does that not apply to conservation public hearings?
So the TPZ, that's actually within the zoning regulations that calls for the sign. I believe there is nothing in the wetland regulations that call for a sign to be posted on the property.
I'm thinking that would be a way to publicize, for example, by the.
You can, in your other role, recommend to amend these regulations.
think it was, neighboring, neighbors or butters or something like the park, it might be get more, public awareness than the rare one here. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comments, not agenda items? And I still don't see anybody's hands raised online.
Okay,
All right.
so then we move on to the next item, new business. So
This
that's-
is application IW 24-10 to construct a residential home with associated grading in the upland review area at 311 Orchard Avenue. Applicant contact William D'Amelia and owner Frederick Tequila. Apologies for mispronunciation. It's your floor.
Evening. My name is Bill D'Amelia. I'm the applicant for 311 Orchard Ave. Proposing to build a new home there. And the reason, I'm sure you read, I assume you read my narrative. Did we?
Yes.
Okay. So I guess I had discussions with Chris about this, didn't really understand, and with Alan, who helped me, we did the, he's not here for me, but I'm here for myself. Help me understand why I'm even here. Because I really didn't understand why I'm even here, because the house doesn't look like it's in a wetlands, and I learned the uplands review that has to be done to the rear of the property. So I would like to build a home there, and the reason I'm here, from my understanding, is I'm in the 100-foot buffer area from the wetlands line, which is the backyard of this property.
Correct.
And maybe 50% of it is the part that may be disturbing. Because some of it, the rear part of the property, the western part of the property, I'm not even doing anything there. So that's what my purpose is here. So I have to review the back portion of the backyard of the property. It's right now, there's a lot of debris and other materials that are there that cannot be helping the wetlands area that is in the back of the property. And I will be cleaning up and making more presentable, and the area that I'm disturbing temporarily, I think it's minor, and I think that's my piece I can tell you. Unless you have questions, am I describing it right?
So to embellish, what Bill is trying to say is the home itself is not in the upland review area.
Right.
Correct.
The rear yard area, which I don't know if you folks have visited the site, but if you've read my report on the applicant, there is an existing garage there. So the bulk of the disturbed area is the removal of the garage, the other debris that's left on the property. Now, I haven't been into the property other than to drive by it myself, because that would be trespassing. And so what is downslope of that and the sort of things that Bill is describing, I take his word for it. And from what I've heard from Eric in the past as part of his zoning enforcement duties, it's consistent that there is a lot of junk on the property that Bill will need to remove in order to make that property look like something he wants to sell, which is the goal, I believe. And so he'll be cleaning up the downslope area where the other debris is, taking down that garage or shed or barn. It's listed as a barn on the plan to be removed. And then that area where the silt fence is shown on the plan is his limit of clearing. The majority of the cleared area, again, just I can't state this as being important enough, is that barn. So the barn's removal is the bulk of the disturbed area. So once that's cleaned and graded, any additional trees to come down in that area would be minimal. We've discussed what trees he is intending to remove and which ones he isn't. The ones alongside the southern boundary are to remain. Obviously, the ones that are in the town's property, the right of way where the MDC pump station is, are to remain. He's not cutting down our trees. That would be a whole nother issue we don't even want to contemplate at the moment. So it's clearing the site of the lot where the house is going that is not in the upland review area, and then to clear and grade the area that will become the backyard of the home. That is the area that is the impact to the upland review area. And it's a relatively small number, 3,000 or so square feet of total disturbance from my rough calculations.
And to draw the commission's attention to it, I do have it up on the screen where you can see the site plan. And for those who are following along on the meeting on Zoom or watching later, as you can see, the blue line here is denoted as the 100-foot upland review area from the wetlands, which are off-site on the adjacent property. There's a natural break in grade, as you can see, kind of where the existing barn is, kind of highlighting that with the cursor now. And you see that the proposed clearing limits, again with the silt fence, would be pretty close to that existing limits. Again, there's a little area around it, around about there on the cursor. You can see you have the existing barn showing the existing tree line, small area of clearing there, but it's primarily the area that's already partially disturbed or with an existing building on it as well. And that, I was talked to with the wetland agent previously on that there was no plan for the applicant to clear anything down that slope. It's to stop at the top of the slope and to leave that all intact.
Mr. Chairman, do we want to recognize John's question?
Oh, sorry, John.
Yeah, just a statement, it's almost it's kind of misleading about the 3,000 feet of disturbance, because really he only has a sliver of that deck that's gonna be in the upland review area, so.
Correct. The
None
3,000
of the houses in the upland review area, and looks like about 5 square feet of the deck is gonna be in.
Correct, the very minimum amount of
So it's just for the lawn, I'm assuming that's going to be a lawn there or a yard or.
the lawn and the building to be removed.
Yeah.
So the construction activities is the building to be removed. And a few of the trees that are in that area, I don't believe it was a large number, 5 or 6 or something like that, that were in the upland review area. And they're in, again, if you've been by the property and took a look at it, it's hard to visualize because
Because it's
garage is so
all
far
over.
back in the tree line. The front trees, obviously, they're the ones that are not in the upland review area where the house is gonna go. So it's not a tremendous impact to the upland review area. It will be graded off and grassed. Loam seeded is the term we often use in our work.
And I believe Commissioner Sedil is looking to be recognized.
Commissioner Sedell, please.
Yes, thank you. So, how is again the runoff going to be treated? What's going to come to the house? Where's that water going to go from the runoff? Is that going to go towards the wetland? What's the plan as far as the sheet flow and the stormwater plan?
The same way today as it is in the future. It'll be flowing the same way it is doing right now. It's like, I think the town planner described is the natural break where that blue line is right now. That's where the grade, as it is now, is grading down now. So it's pretty much going to stay the same way. Because it's a natural grade, as you can see the topo of the property now. It's going to the heading to the west.
How steep is that drop? I see the lines, but numbers are small.
The drop from the rear of this property,
Yeah, towards the wetland, yeah.
from the rear of the house to the back property line is nearly 20 feet. If I recall, 60.
Those are 1 foot
Yeah,
lines. Then
yeah, right.
Closer to what Mr. Conlon.
it's about 12, 14 feet drop from the back.
14 feet. I mean, that's
Right.
significant. Now, my question is, what's going to stop that? You got, coming down the roof leaders, we're going to point in that direction. What's going to slow that flow down? Is the wetland going to see that flow? To stop it, slow it down like we saw in a previous application. How is that all going to work? What's the plan there?
I think it's important to note that the bulk of that vertical drop is beyond the clearing limits, so that's existing now. The area where the house is being built is not changing an awful lot, just minor grading. To address, I think, the issue of the runoff, it's not likely going to change the runoff patterns on that property much. There may be some concentration alongside the house, grading of convenience to keep anything from accumulating alongside the foundation, but that water's still going to the rear as it is, and I don't see that changing significantly, especially when you take the roof leaders on the front of the house and you point them towards the street. You're effectively moving half of the roof drainage towards a direction it wasn't going previously. Now, we
I
didn't
don't
do
know
any
that looking at this plan, sir. You know, I'm just sort of, you know, I didn't get it, so that's why I'm asking.
Mm-hmm. No, I understand that. The plans don't show roof leaders, but that's not something that's unique to this plan. A lot of times on a residential house, they leave the roof gutter systems and things like that to the details of construction. So we can only make presumptions, and typically there's a roof
But
leader. in
we
each
are a
plan.
wetlands commission, and that is fair game on a wetlands commission. What is the impact to the
It is.
wetland? More sheet flow, less sheet flow? How is that? You have a house now, you know, whatever's gonna happen back there. I can't see. It's very wooded area from the aerial photos. So is there erosion back there? Is it gonna get worse, better? You say it's gonna be the same. I do not know these things by looking at this plan.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, for the record, my name is Alan Bongiovanni. I'm a licensed land surveyor in the state of Connecticut. My office is on Payne Road, representing Bill D'Amelia. I prepared the plan that you have before you. The site, as shown, same way. The site is shown, basically, the elevation goes from Orchard Avenue. You have a relatively flat area with very little pitch towards the back of the proposed house, which is actually the front of the barn. And from there, it slopes off towards the wetlands. The proposal is to remove an existing garage, barn, what have you, from the property and then construct this home. The footprint of this house is a little bit larger than the existing barn, but not creating a lot of, or a significant area of additional impervious surface. The drainage patterns, when this project is done, if approved, would be from the midpoint of the house towards the wetland that would sheet flow in that area. From the front of the house and at each corner of the house, there would be downspouts and splash pads so that you disperse that rainwater. You don't concentrate in any one area. Would flow towards Orchard Avenue. At the end of the day, if this is all approved and built, you're gonna have about the same flow at the rear property line pre-construction as you will post-construction. There's no significant impervious area being added to this property. The small area of the front yard that's being diverted toward Orchard Avenue will end up through this town drainage system and still feed the same wetland area. The last application that you had was a little bit different than this in that you had a significant amount of a smaller lot that was going to be impervious. That's not the situation here. Mr. D'Amelia has done a very nice job to minimize the footprint of the house, to minimize the impact of the property, and to make something that we feel is going to be an asset to the neighborhood.
So what is the connectivity of that runoff? There's a detention pond to the left of there from the aerial shot. Is that eventually where that water is going to go?
It will go there. It goes there today and it will go there after this is built. And that's an actual pond. I don't believe it was ever constructed and designed as a detention area. It's a natural detention area.
A few years back, there was the MDC came in with a permit in that area, if I recall.
They
Has
did.
that work been completed? Or ever
It
done?
has. They rebuilt the pump station in that area. And that's just south of this property, south of where the existing barn is. It's fenced in between this property and the pavement of Meadow Street.
And that has no impact whatsoever, that, you know, that work being done. I know there was flooding, that's
whatsoever.
why they did it, if I recall. The neighbors were complaining about flooding, and that's why the MDC came in and for caution to, yeah.
No, I don't believe that to be accurate. The pump station is for the sanitary sewer. It's not a flood control pump station.
The neighborhood did suffer from some backups in the big
Yeah.
storms because of infiltration in the system.
Right,
So
but it
this-
is a sanitary sewer
Right.
system. Right.
So can you describe what that area behind the house looks like? You know, in this, beyond that area, it's very wooded. Can you
And it's-
describe what that buffer looks like, or just give me some visual?
So it's an
What does that
existing,
Describe that.
it's an existing wooded area today that will remain the same way. The proposed tree line or the extent of the lawn that we have is about 6 feet behind the existing barn. So we're not really clearing a big area. They're gonna cut a couple trees that will interfere with the construction of the home and maintenance of the home, but they're not looking to clear cut the lot. They're looking to leave the rear portion of the lot, the rear 40 feet of that land in its natural condition.
As
They
well
won't
as,
disturb that.
we also discussed leaving trees along the southern border
Yep.
as a
Oh, yeah.
buffer to the town. I mean,
Oh, nothing will be taken out there.
yeah, who wants headlights in their windows, right?
No, right.
You know, the way we've laid this out and the size of the house that Mr. D'Amelia selected was done so that we wouldn't have to move closer to the wetland area. There is a zoning requirement that we need to have a 30-foot usable rear yard. This plan represents that 30-foot usable rear yard, which coincides with basically what's there now for an open area. I mean, again, the existing garage barn, whatever you want to call it, has scrub and brush to the back of it, but that's not the edge of the woods that's there. I mean, what's actually going to be the edge of the woods is where we're going to create the lawn. We're basically going to reseed the area after they take out the debris in the barn.
Mr. Chairman, if you would like, I can actually share an aerial shot of the
Yes,
property.
if you would, that would be good.
So up on your screen, you'll see again, this is the existing house to the north of the proposed property. Just to give you some idea, you have the yard, it's fenced in, and kind of their back limits that they have currently. This is the existing barn that we're speaking about on site. And then you can see the MDC pump station. So again, you have that where, yes, you do have some trees on site that are right next to it and in the front. And this area that was kind of talked of, some trees on the hill and primary scrub in the area. And then to kind of zoom out to give you a context of the area, that is the size of the pond and the associated wetland. That's a large system behind this site. But again, the 100-foot upland review area, then I'll switch back to the map once people are good with what you kind of see in front of you here. This will actually give you another view.
Can you go back to that real quick? I'm sorry. I saw the barn in there. I just noticed it through the trees. There it is, you know.
Yeah. So this gives you kind of the oblique where you can see again, the barn, the roof kind of blends in quite well. But what you have on the site is you can see where the barn is right now in the current level. And if we switch back to,
Oh, before you switch.
okay,
I just want to point out that these large trees that you see along the southern edge of the property are in the town right away, except for the one very large one he had the cursor on a moment
this one
ago,
right here.
which is also to remain, but that's on his property. The other ones to the left there are all on public right away, and they'll be remaining. The ones that are coming down are the ones closest to the building.
So again, that's to the oblique. And then if we switch back to the vertical view, you can kind of see as Mr. Zabidio was noting that these trees right here along the side of the property are to remain. And then the trees that would be impacted are the one immediately adjacent. This tree and this tree immediately adjacent, maybe this one right here, you could confirm or not, the applicant could, whether it reaches just behind the barn.
Yes, just the one right behind the barn. There's a couple small ones, just,
Yep, it's primarily these three that you can see easily right around the barn would be the ones impacted. And you kind of note, again, the pump station and the existing level of that. And again, you know, while it's not part of this application, you can note how the neighborhood has developed out, well, zoom fast over time, and the kind of backyards adjacent to it. So if we look at this existing line right here, of where the barn is. Then if it lets me switch over fast enough. Zoom is never fast enough. So that existing line of the barn is right here, right now. As you can see on this plan, kind of running the cursor, the existing house is proposed on the other side of the barn. And where the barn is now, plus some additional area will be turned to lawn. And you can see the existing fence with the neighbors. And again, the primary thing that you have is the topography, which makes it kind of a little more challenging on the back of the site, but then that does naturally preserve part of the back of the site that the applicant is proposing to do.
Mr.
Question
Chairman?
from John?
If Commissioner Seidel is finished, please go ahead.
I'm fine, thank you.
Excuse me?
I think he
I'm
said he's fine.
Thank you.
Okay. Paul, can you do street view on that, what you had there? Because I'm looking on Google Maps and Street View, and you could clearly see the slope is, most of that building site is going south, so. I mean, I think it's more than half the house from what Mr. Bongiovanni said. Looks like it sheet flow to the south, and it's all gonna end up in the wetland anyway, because it's gonna go in the storm drainage system, but
And
it's not gonna
our,
be a concentrated, runoff.
and our storm drainage system does outlet back there anyway.
But I'm saying if you looked at it from the street view,
When Google catches up.
I just have
There you
a
go.
question for the applicant. The driveway will be sloping towards Orchard, correct?
Correct.
So this is again, the street view. You can see the corner of Orchard. You can see the neighboring property. And in there, you can see the existing barn.
And you can see the slope to the left, which is south, and
And the large trees to the left are the ones to be maintained. Yep, that's. All of those along that edge are staying. And this whole front area forward of that building is outside of the upland review area, just to make that note. You gonna click over there? Yeah,
Yep, you can see again, the site.
Yep. so those are
Ours
ours.
should be flat.
Those trees are in the right of way. Those are town-owned trees.
Yep, and then the pump station.
And then the pump station. You can just make out the roof of the shed there,
Yep, and
garage.
right there.
So if you want to make the visual comparison, what is it to the right of that end of that roof is essentially where the house is going. And that's also coincident with the limit of the upland review area.
yeah, I mean, it looks to me that only, part of the back of the house would discharge to the rear with the
Correct.
roof leaders.
The north side mostly.
And if anyone had erosion, they would do something about it anyway. I would think they would want to slow it down if there was a problem with.
Well, if my yard were eroding, I would, yeah. I do not see anybody with a hand raised.
Yep, since it's not a public hearing, so,
Oh,
but
that's
any
right.
commissioners,
Forgot about that.
yep, no worries.
Long day.
Yep, so and again, I'll remind the commission too that this application is received tonight. Due to the Connecticut general statutes on wetlands, that there's a 14-day period in between if no public hearing is held. So this would be able to be acted on at the next meeting. And then the commission would normally make a determination either at this meeting or the next meeting, depending on how you do it, of whether it would require a public hearing or not. Public hearings are if there's a significant impact to the wetland. Primarily, other public hearings can be held if there is a significant public interest. For a good example, significant public interest was the public hearing we had previously on the Mill Pond project that, again, while it didn't necessarily work within the wetlands, it definitely had a significant public interest because of where it was. But again, those are the primary reasons for a public hearing, the main one being significant impact to the wetlands. And as it was kind of noted, You can see the upland review area, and again, it's a portion of the back deck. The back house stops at the upland review area, and then you have a portion of yard.
We need a motion if they're just going to let it continue to the next meeting.
Yeah, I would say a motion to table.
I would like to make a motion to table this application until the next meeting. Because we did just receive it.
Yep. My only other recommendation, sorry to jump in.
No, that's fine.
My only other recommendation is before tabling, if there are any other additional questions, or any other guidance you would like to provide to the applicant, if there's anything you're looking to see before the next meeting or anything on the plans, now would be a good time to give that information to the applicant. So when they do return, everything can be all buttoned up.
I'll take your silence as no conditions at this time.
No, I have no conditions at this time. Does anyone?
Okay. We need a second for the motion.
I'll
I will second the motion.
And then Susan, if you could do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Bashand?
This is for tabling?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
Commissioner
Yes.
Morris?
Yes.
Commissioner Sadil?
Yes.
Commissioner Wimett?
Yes.
Commissioner Conway?
Yes.
Motion to table is approved. And that brings us to our next item of new business, application in IW 24 11. Thank you, gentlemen. To relocate a shed, trailer, and light standard within the URA at 3191 Berlin Turnpike. Applicant Victor Perez, owner Zion Properties LLC. Contact Alan Bongiovanni. Might as well keep your seat.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commission for the, and staff for the record, my name is Alan Bongiovanni. I'm a licensed land surveyor in the state of Connecticut. My office is at 170 Payne Road. I'm representing Optimo Car Wash in the application for 3191 Berlin Turnpike. That's here before you this evening. I'm sure all of you are aware of this site. This is on the corner of the Berlin Turnpike and Richard Street. It's at the northwest corner of that intersection. For years, it was a mobile station. It was redone in the last 6-8 years, I think, or 5 or 6 years, as a Sunoco station. The car wash building to the west existed when it was the original mobile station, some probably 5 or 6 years ago when they redid the gas station. I believe they came before P&Z and got permission to operate this as a hand wash car wash as opposed to the automatic that it was historically. At some point between when this opened and today, a couple small outbuildings were put, a trailer to store their car wash equipment, and then a shed were installed on the property, too close to the property line. They're supposed to, as outbuildings, are supposed to be 5 foot from a zoning regulation from the property line. They're about 2.5, 2 foot, and occupying the site and working with the town to get an electrical permit for one of the buildings. It was brought to their attention that this needs to be corrected. So we're proposing to relocate the shed and the storage for their car wash materials. Just basically sliding them from their location now a couple feet towards the parking lot. They don't have foundations. We're not proposing to do any excavation or removal of any soil. We're just they're gonna use probably a large forklift or something, pick them up and move them so that they're compliant with the zoning regulations. We're not changing any drainage patterns. We're not doing anything, no cutting of no vegetation. There is a light pole that needs to be removed so that we can accommodate the shift to the east. And that'll just be cut down to grade, so they won't excavate that out. They're just gonna remove the pole and chop the concrete base down to flush, and then the building will cover that. And that light fixture will be relocated onto the building. So there's no site work proposed here. There's no infringement upon the wetlands or the upland review area. If anything, we're moving things a couple feet further away from it. So I think this is a fairly basic, clean application. We expect there to be no impact to the wetlands whatsoever. you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
There's no disturbance.
Nothing.
Period.
I have no questions. Anyone, any of the commissioners have questions? Anyone online?
Commissioner Sedell is looking to be recognized.
Yes, okay. Commissioner Sedell?
Looks like a slam dunk.
Yes,
Let's
thank
see.
you. So right now, the sheds are how far from the property line?
2.5 on the southern one, around 2 foot on the northern one. I apologize for the quality of the image on the screen. The actual structures are shown lighter in dashed lines and they didn't come out that well on this, but I think the cursor's on the closest point there. That's where that spot elevation of 122.7 is. That's at the corner of the northern shed and the south storage unit is just along that area there where the cursor is now, about 2.5 feet off the property line. We're
So
gonna
you're
move
gonna
into-
essentially move it 2 feet over to the right, is basically what you're gonna do?
Correct. Yep,
2 feet.
yep. We would stake, go ahead.
No, go ahead. You.
We would set stakes on the property line so that when they moved it, it could be measured right at that time to make sure they comply with the zoning regulations.
Now, you said there's no digging or foundation wise, but how is the stability of there right now? If you're just gonna drop with, over the years with erosion and such, how solid are those buildings there?
So they're on concrete block footings, or they're just concrete blocks that are placed on grade. That's typical of, these are no bigger than any sheds you might have in your backyard. There is curb along the parking area, so no water runs from this property westerly towards the front of those sheds that goes over the slope. So there's no area or no water to cause erosion in that area. It's all captured with an on-site storm drainage system that goes out towards Richard Street and eventually exits out in the same water course to the west.
So you're saying the water does not go to the west, it goes to the south?
Correct. The paved areas, the parking areas, the driveway areas, all go to a structured drainage system within the site, which ultimately goes to a town system or state system, actually. Route 173 is Richard Street, and exits. There's a small bridge culvert area just to the west of the site, and it exits to that water course.
Now, is there any maintenance being done in between when you have these buildings and you have that embankment? It's a very steep embankment. Is there any clean out going on there on a regular basis? Because those types of areas always tend to be neglected. Can you tell me something about that?
So there are some pine trees along that western area there. There's a nice pine mulch, straw mulch along a lot of that slope. And it's stable. I mean, we noticed no erosion or degradation to the slope in that area. Again, we're not proposing to touch the slope, and it should, stay stable for as long as I can imagine. Like I said, there's no real watershed that goes to that area that would cause those type of problems. Again, everything on our property is captured within the parking area, and we have very little area between the curb line and the top of slope at the property line in that area. Again, we're not adding these structures to the property. They've been there for probably 4 or 5 years. And they've caused no issue with grading or erosion or sediment problems to the area or the wetland areas to the west on the neighboring property. We're just trying to make these 2 units compliant with zoning.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman? If Mr. Seidel is done, I have one
Is
question.
he still, yeah,
I'm fine. Thank you.
Mr. Sedell?
Was this a TPZ requirement or?
It was
What
the zoning,
initiated this?
it was the zoning enforcement officer. These actually don't require P and Z approval.
Zoning issue.
They went to the town to get an electrical permit to put lighting in the shed. And at that point, they realized they had not been permitted, so they asked for a survey and a site plan. We did that, showed where they were. So we proposed, as you see it, moving them over. They were satisfied with that. The zoning enforcement officer, I believe, talked with the chairman. He says, well, they had never been before us before for these, so
they should come before the Wetland Commission. That's why we're here.
And I'll just remind, the main thing is, yeah, if a zoning permit was previously sought for them, it would have come in because it would have been new construction.
Right.
It would have been adding something new to the upland review area for the gas station, car wash use. Again, it's storage on that. So the reason why it's in front of you is because, again, it did not have a previous zoning permit, and that the Conservation Commission did not have a chance to opine on it previously when they were installed.
So if you have any further questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any further questions?
Nobody else online?
Well, just one more, then the obvious next question you mentioned, they're gonna be bringing electrical into it,
Yes.
overhead or underground?
Overhead.
Overhead,
It's enclosed conduit.
nothing for us to.
No excavation.
So I believe at this point, you can make a motion like you did for the last, to continue to the next meeting, or to table to the next meeting this is your formal acceptance of this application. So the next meeting you can act.
Right, I'd like to make a motion to table this until the next meeting because we just received it today. And we'll decide on the permanent status of it next meeting.
Need a second?
Have a second?
Second.
I'll second the motion.
We had Commissioner Morris as a second in the room. But thank you.
And we have Susan read the roll again.
Yep.
Susan, can you
Commissioner
read?
Bashan? Yeah, I'm
Yes.
sorry, yeah. Commissioner
Go ahead.
Bashan,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Sadil,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilmette,
Yes.
Commissioner Conway.
Yes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. This moves us to old business, and that is application IW 24-4, my application for the bridge. I don't believe we need to take any action on this because we've tabled the public hearing. We've continued the public hearing to next month. But I do not believe we need to take any action on this,
Correct.
which then brings up Mr. Campbell's application, 2024-03. Is that?
Right.
All right, that might be a typo. But for the demolition of an existing garage and construction of the 24-foot by 40-foot detached garage, et cetera, at 54 Northwood Road, applicant Michael Campbell.
So again, for normal order of operations, from this point, since the public hearing is closed on that one, typically what you would have is a motion, potentially a motion to approve, and then a second, and then discussion taking place on that. If there's any conditions that are proposed, those could be added during discussion. And again, the one who made the motion could approve those addendums to their motion.
Well, I'd like to make a motion to approve this application. I think we've been pretty rigorous on it with the public hearing and everything, and none of your neighbors have
No, everybody
made
knows
any
about
sort
it.
of a complaint, and
Everybody's giving me their blessing.
yes, so I'd like to I'd like to get a second on the motion to approve this application.
I think you mentioned if there was any conditions, if anyone had a suggestion for conditions or discussions.
I'll second the motion first. I think that the conditions come after the second. Is that correct?
That is correct. Now that you have a second, you can have a discussion.
Okay. I have nothing to add. I just wanted to point it out.
Thanks, because, yeah.
Do we have any standard conditions we would put on
We
these?
do have the standard ones that are in pretty much every approval,
Right.
that talk about the timing, if I remember correctly, there are a certain amount that are standard ones. So actually, if you wanted to, and I don't believe it's typically done, and a commission could clarify on that one, they are added. But if you would like to amend the motion to be approved with the standard conditions, that could be.
Yes, I'd like to amend the motion to be approved with the standard conditions that apply to every application for the Wetlands Commission.
Point
Second,
of order, usually the secretary, if we're done, we're ready to vote. Usually that comes from the secretary, reads the conditions, and then there's And then there's a second after we read the conditions. If we add one, we do that at that time. And then final discussion, then a final vote. That's the way it's been done in the past.
That's a good idea. We'll do it that way.
So Madam
we have to find-
Secretary, is there a motion for the application 2024-3? You state that the application.
So I'm looking at B under old business. Is that what I would read? Okay.
Yes.
Application 2024-03 for the demolition of an existing garage and construction of 24 feet by 40 feet detached garage, 12 feet by 12 feet building addition, and 40 feet by 40 feet paved driveway within the URA at 54 Northwood Road. Applicant owner contact Michael Campbell.
Now, were you given the condition sheet as the standard conditions? We usually read those, so the applicant has been formally advised what those conditions are for the record.
I'm not sure that I have the conditions sheet. Would,
Mr. Dixon, you should supply secretary with the standard conditions, usually ahead of time.
Yep, as I said, that's, again, I'm, no excuses, not a normal staff member to this one, and I did not have that from Mr. Hinckley, so I will go through and see if I can find those now.
While we're waiting, has Mr. Campbell been giving the list of those conditions?
That I do not know.
I don't believe so. I did not give him any.
No, I do not have them at the moment.
Well, for your sake, you should read them and
Absolutely.
acquiesce. You know what the limitations are for your own benefit, what you're signing up for, and that you are comfortable. And for the record, that they're standard conditions we give everybody, but for your sake, being a homeowner, edify yourself and educate. That's the standard wetland conditions.
Can someone email them to me, or is there a written one somewhere that I can?
We're trying to find them for you right now.
Okay, very good.
Sorry. What kind of time?
That's it. It's all good.
It's amateur hour here.
It's all good.
I'm the amateur.
Too.
If I brought
Let
the,
me see if I can find out.
Somebody, no, it's a list of conditions.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question for Mr. Commissioner Seidel, since he has sat in the chair position. Commissioner Seidel, we don't normally read them entirely, right? We just mention them and then we say if there's an
No,
additional
we
condition.
have gone through, I think there are 8 or so, there's 8 of them.
Yeah.
And we recite them, we go through them. And then that's for the
Okay.
benefit of the applicant, not us. So I just, since this is a homeowner,
Understood.
we normally have read those conditions out for the record. And if the applicant acquiesces and can,
I think I remember it both ways, but I seem to remember, it seems like more that we
and
just
especially in light of
referred to the
fact that
conditions.
The applicant says he has not seen them.
Yeah,
That gives me pause.
okay.
Nothing major, but for the record, there's some liability there that, hey, you didn't tell me that, you know what I'm saying? Get what my point?
Understood. Not a problem.
Let me translate that out.
Call Eric.
And where Eric held them in the,
Might come to that. Keep looking. I gotta plug in my laptop. It's gonna die.
I mean, one suggestion is that if we did send him the conditions afterwards and he didn't agree with them, then he would just not proceed
Not the
with
way
his
it works.
application. Excuse me?
Unfortunately.
What's that, Commissioner
I don't
Sedell?
think that's the way it works. I mean, we were in the voting phase, the discussion is over. It's can't
Understood.
go after the fact. I
We have
mean,
Eric's phone number.
I understand.
Well, what I was saying is that if he didn't agree with the standard conditions, then he would not be able to proceed with his
Right.
project.
The
Because
approval
we're
is-
approving
that's
it
gonna
with
delay
those
the vote. I'm not
conditions.
gonna
yeah.
vote on something that the applicant is not agreed to.
I got you.
We'll see if we can't reach our expert.
All good. Didn't know if they were online
Let's see if he takes your call.
on the Wetlands Commission somewhere or they're online. on the
Hey, how you
town.
doing? Cool. Hey, we got a question for you. What are the standard conditions? I'm gonna put you on speaker.
Or where to find them.
Yeah, he's not gonna know them off the top of his head.
Yeah, where do we look for?
Put them on speakerphone. You can
Although he
tell-
might, he's been through it.
To like the conservation folder and just go to any of the applications for
Okay,
the COA, and they're there.
under,
Boards and commissions, conservation's 2024 application.
yeah, I'm in there now. So,
Just pick one.
We might not have had any this year.
okay, I picked Carr Avenue. All right.
Yeah, and then you should, the COA, and you should list the 10 standard of the first 10, and anything else we add are underneath that.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right?
Yep.
Anything else?
Not at the moment. Appreciate you taking the call.
Go back to your recliner.
I would turn this off. All right.
Thanks, Eric.
Yep, bye.
So rather than printing them, going and get them, bringing them down.
No, read them and
I will
I'll
read
come
them.
get them in writing.
Yeah, I'll make sure we get them to you tomorrow.
Okay, perfect.
So standard condition number one, permits are not transferable without the prior written consent of the agency. Number two is failure to comply with any condition required by this permit shall automatically revoke this permit and subject applicant, heirs, successors, and assigns the enforcement authority of the commission. All conditions listed on this permit must be printed on the approved plans within 6 months of the report issued by the commission. The annotated plans must be presented to the commission for signature by the chairman within 6 months of the report issued by the commission. Otherwise, this permit is null and void. Applicant will incorporate the official notification of action into original tracings. Item number 5, when the actual field conditions differ from those asserted by the approved plans, the town engineer in consultation with the chairman may direct that certain modifications or amendments be made to accomplish the intent of the permit. No regulated activity within the designated wetlands, watercourses, and/or buffer area shall be performed on the site until all soil and erosion control measures are installed in accordance with the plans approved by the town engineer. The agency has relied in whole or in part on information provided by the applicant, and if such information subsequently proves to be false, deceptive, incomplete, or inaccurate, the permit may be modified, suspended, or revoked. All permits issued by the agency are subject to and do not derogate any present or future rights or powers of the agency or the town of Newington, and convey no rights in real estate or material, nor any exclusive privileges, and are further subject to any and all public and private rights and to any federal, state, and municipal laws or regulations pertinent to the subject land or activity. In conducting the authorized activities, the permittee shall implement such management practices consistent with the terms and conditions of the permit as needed to control stormwater discharges and to prevent erosion and sedimentation, to otherwise prevent pollution of wetlands and watercourses. And item number 10, this permit is valid for wetlands only. Additional approvals, permits may be required from other town departments, state or federal agencies. It is a responsibility of the applicant to verify what other permits, approvals may be required for this project.
That's the end of the standard one.
That's the standard, that's the 10 standard.
Question for the committee. Do I get a paper permit? Is there something that,
Yes.
like a building permit I'm gonna get?
Yes, you'll get what's called a certificate of action.
Okay.
So
Not this evening.
we'll pause here, Mr. Chairman, to see that the applicant acquiesces to those conditions.
Yep. Very good.
Yes,
And for the commissions and those who are online, I have put the COA that was just read with a 10 standard in front of the applicant so he can review it right now as well.
any chance you could print this out now? And
We
just give
could.
it to him?
Sure.
Why do we do that?
Yeah, it'll be, if approved, he'll be getting it in May in the same way. We'll have.
Okay.
Conditions,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, normally you don't get it.
Officially approved. When I receive that?
so when we,
14 or 15 days after the approval is published in the newspaper. Which will be contingent on the vote.
For a wetlands permit, that's the case? He can't, there's no action before then for
there's
him?
an appeal period.
What's that?
Appeal period. So technically, the wetlands applications, like most applications, when they are approved by the committee, it's approved. However, there's an appeal period that runs 15 days from the date of publication. So it's when an applicant does that. I've had examples in the past where maybe appeal period runs, but they want to start working on the site. In past municipalities, we've had applicants sign basically something that acknowledges that, yes, I'm working within the appeal period and I may be required to stop. That's why most people wait to the 15 days
I
after.
guess
it's
because we've
published.
never had an appeal that I know of.
No, that's fine. It won't start that fast anyways. I have to do a building and demo permits and that kind of things.
And that has a 30-day review period anyway. So no overlap.
So we have plenty of time to mail it.
Plenty of time.
So I believe that kind of short circuited the voting, but I believe there is a motion and a second on the floor.
Correct.
The applicant
Mr.
has-
Chairman, I second the motion. The motion is on the floor. I second the motion as were read by the town engineer. Final discussion, and then Ms. Gibbons calls the roll.
So any items for final discussion?
I have nothing further.
I do not see anybody's hands raised.
So I believe that's the motioner is okay with the standard conditions as read, and the
Right.
seconder is okay as well.
Yes.
Okay,
That's
and should we call the roll?
Yes.
Commissioner Bashand,
Yes.
Commissioner Morris,
Yes.
Commissioner Sedil,
Yes,
Commissioner Wimett,
Yes.
Commissioner Conway.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
It was a long road.
This,
Sorry,
I got it. Thank you.
small plan, man.
this carries us to communications.
We're just, so we have one other public participation, the meeting after old business. So again, this is if anyone in the room would like to speak or anyone online, again, for non-agenda items. Currently, I do not see any raised hands online.
Mr. McCarthy would like to address us.
Hi, Bill McCarthy, 206 Churchill Drive. I just want to thank the Rare Reminder for having giving me the opportunity to find out about this meeting. I was involved with some of the town council stuff and with the pool committee. So I started reading the Rare Reminder. And lo and behold, there was the hearing on you guys. That was good. I really appreciate that. Sitting in here and listening to your meeting this evening has been very informative. Mr. Bashan was a little bit struck that I said kill the trees or cut the trees down. I I am a strong supporter of proper forest management. We have so many, I live down near Churchill Park, and the last storm, the storms took out power, they took down the lines. This was because of either, they could have been healthy trees, I don't know. But a lot of the times, these trees are like, oh, well, it looks so pretty. Yeah, but it's diseased, it needs replacement. It needs to be cut down. Plant another tree next to it. I just wanna, and then the whole wetlands thing is just even more confusing for me. But I just wanna congratulate the committee for all the work that you guys do. And I'll probably be keeping an eye on you now. Thanks.
You can join too.
We're always looking for commissioners.
Okay.
Lots of fun. There's snacks afterwards.
I don't see any hands raised on the Zoom participants. I suppose our esteemed town councilors may have something to say.
Are there agent communications?
Yep, so we would move on, if there's no more public participation. We have, so under communication reports, it then goes agent communications, town liaison communications, and then pond life. So if we have no further public participation, no hands are raised, I'd recommend moving to communications and reports.
That's from you guys.
Yep.
That's from us.
So item A is agent communications, Mr. Agent.
Mr. Agent, I have not done any, what is there called those? Administrative approvals in the last month since we met last. So I have very little to say, which is unusual for me. So we'll leave it at that. As far as agent communications, we did have a communication regarding 311 Orchard, but it was the same thing that Commissioner Sedil asked, so I didn't bring it up at the time. But just as a matter of transparency, the adjacent property owner did ask where the runoff was going. And so as he brought it up, I didn't bring it up as a secondary matter. So that's all the agent has to communicate at this time. What else we got
The
there?
next item is town council liaison communications.
Hey, can you send me the location of the standard conditions so I can blast them off and memorize them?
We'll get you a copy. The more of us that have them, the less time it'll take for us to find them.
Exactly.
Good evening. We really, I don't think we have much to report. Looking at my notes from the last meeting, Facilities Naming Committee, I think, is going to be called to do some work. We have several requests for various entities in town to be named. So I am one of, I think, 3 of us on that commission or committee. So we'll be working on that. Can report on the town manager search. Last night, we did the first round of interviews, face-to-face interviews with 3 candidates. We have scheduled a second round of interviews, and you and everyone else will be informed as soon as and when a decision is made. I think that's pretty much it. We did talk about signage. And I know, Gail, you've been working on this for much longer than I have. So if you want to talk a little bit about that, we've begun a discussion on Newington Junction and historical signage.
Continuation, a few years ago, we did get a grant, feasibility grant for $10,000 to review what we can do to kind of actually preserve, advance, promote Newington Junction area. And as part of the feasibility study, it was recommended that the next step was going to be implemented in stages, that we would get some signage up there. because first of all, many people don't know that there's 3 historical districts. Some of the homes there are on the National Historic Register. The firehouse, the whole history of the Newington Junction train station, whatever. So we went for a grant for that second stage, and unfortunately, we did not get it. I get the competition is somewhat intense. So as a council, we kind of discussed that, hey, let's give it another try, let's go for it. And at this point, actually due to some of the things that Paul is working on with other towns now, trying to get an extension of the biking walking trail where Newington Junction might actually be considered part of as a center stop point, destination point between New Britain and West Hartford, let's say. Just a few other things that are going around in town that perhaps this time when we do apply, we might have a stronger application, which will have more resonance with the funders. So we we authorized the town manager to kind of go ahead and tell our grant writer to go ahead for a second try at this, and we feel a little bit more hopeful.
Mhm. I think that's
about it.
that's
Did you buy the OFI building?
excuse me.
What's the project? What's the progress on the OFI building?
We have yet to hear the final determination. That question was raised at the last town council meeting, and there's still information that
But as
needs
a
to be finalized and gathered.
As a council, it was voted on to proceed with obtaining that.
So are you saying it's like in a contingency stage or something like that? Or I thought, it's a done deal on the council's end.
Yes,
And now it's just between the lawyers and
exactly.
things like that?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's still that 15-day waiting period. I don't know if that's up yet either for passage of ordinance, so.
Any
We don't have to rehash that whole thing right now.
other questions?
I see nobody online with a question. I suspect we are done with public communications.
Thank you.
Yes, the other item on there, and I don't think Alan isn't here right now, but the Pond Life Research and Education. I believe that was typically he reports on that. I don't know if anyone has a report on it. If not, I think we could just move on to
Who
the
reports
next
on
item. Yeah,
Alan?
his name, right?
Commissioner Paskowitz.
That's good. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm bad with
oh.
last names sometimes, but yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. The other commission member, yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Commissioner Paskowitz normally reports on it.
okay. Yes, he was not going to be in attendance this evening. So in the absence of a Pond Life report, I suspect you can entertain
Make a motion to adjourn? I'd like to propose a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Who seconded?
John Bashan.
John, okay. Thank you.
Do you call the roll on that?
I think on this one, you could do unanimous vote.
Yeah, okay.
Aye.
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 Aye. Anybody opposed? Anybody abstaining?
Stand adjourned.
Good night. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night. Recording.
Send the live stream.
Yep, and live stream. Thank you, Susan.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Susan.
Thank you.